welcome to the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Revell. I've been doing this podcast for 8 years now. I think it's 8 years. Oh, it's been a long time. I've been in business 10 years, and it's so good to have you listening into the show today. Today is part 2 of our Mary Poppins series. So if you haven't listened to the episode last week, I encourage you to jump back over, have a listen. We went through the first 4 things that we learned from Mary Poppins about how to have a great Mary Poppins spirit in terms of decluttering and organizing. We talked about how she makes light of heavy work. She has a positive attitude in dreary work. She does the right thing and is comfortable being herself. And so today we're going to hit on the next 4 things that I've pulled out of my learnings from the amazing Mary Poppins. And the first one is she has natural talent. Like, I don't think you could argue that Mary Poppins has some pretty unique natural talents. And within that, she gathers some very unique characters around her. I mean, the woman can fly, so she gets bonus points for that. But natural talent applies to decluttering and organizing skills. So, you know, particularly if you're hiring someone, you want them to have some skills in the job that they're going to come to, not just come to you and be like, we'll make it up as we go, and I've never done this before, and I've got no ideas or experience. You want someone who's got talent, who's got skills. But the talent and the skills also applies to being able to build rapport, be compassionate, be kind, work with someone without any judgment, be creative in finding solutions. It might be in being environmentally conscious or being a good listener. Like, those are actually really strong natural talents. And so if you're decluttering with your kids and you feel like, oh my gosh, I just don't know this stuff, this is not my expertise. What if you went, okay, we can make the decluttering and organizing stuff happen, but how can I be a really good listener or be creative or be compassionate to my child? So many times I speak to and work with parents who just feel like, well, I didn't learn it, and so I have no right teaching it to my children. But actually, this is a learned skill as well. Like, there's natural talent, but there's learned talent and learned skills. And you can learn to be a really proficient and efficient declutterer, and you can learn to be a great organizer. It doesn't mean it'll be perfect. It doesn't mean you have to become a professional organizer and do this as a job. But it does mean that you don't have to feel like you missed the boat, and because maybe you didn't get taught as a child that you've got no opportunity to do that, and you have no right to pass on those skills. So I think it's really important that these skills are clearly identifiable if you're hiring an expert. Like, it's really, really important. But man, oh man, it is crucial for you to show these characteristics to anyone that you're working with and to yourself. So when you're decluttering just on your own, how can you be without judgment? How can you be compassionate? How can you be creative? How can you be kind and a good listener? Like, how can you do those things for yourself so that you're not being harsh with yourself when you're decluttering and organizing? You don't want to be your worst critic. You want to be like a pom-pom cheerleader when you're doing your own decluttering. The next characteristic of Mary Poppins is she is a problem solver. This is one of my favorite quotes from Mary Poppins, and I don't think it's a quote I've ever heard anybody else refer to. The quote is, "Enough is as good as a feast." Enough is as good as a feast. So before we get into the problem-solving side of it, like, the concept of enough being as good as a feast is such a brilliant line. Like, I want to put it on t-shirts. If I thought that it would not age, I would put it on a tattoo or something. Like, I just think it's so, so good. Because learning to be satisfied with enough, and I'll put in the show notes a link to an episode literally called Enough just a few weeks ago. But learning to be satisfied with enough is enormous. It's huge. It's game-changing. Because when you find that you're satisfied with enough, you'll find that it's as good as having a feast, because you're living intentionally, you're living fully, you're living free from the burden of clutter, you're living less stressed, you're living more engaged. And so I just think this whole concept of enough is as good as a feast when it comes to minimalism and living intentionally is brilliant. Okay, so let's go back to the Mary Poppins is a problem solver. Mary Poppins maybe got things right the first time, but she's a fictional character and you are not. So don't expect that you are going to get everything right the first time. Being a problem solver is about identifying the problem and then sometimes giving it a few goes or a few tries or giving something a shot and just seeing how it feels. So it might be that you organize a space and you're like, I'm not sure if I've nailed it, but maybe you live with it for a week and just kind of feel how it feels in your home, how you move in the space, how you use the space, how other people find that solution. I wrote this down. This is a line directly out of our team training manual. This is what it says. Knowing where to keep an ironing board or how to organize a wardrobe or playroom is about problem solving. And problem solving might take a few tries. It's okay to say to your client, I'm thinking we try this. What do you think? Or I have 2 ideas. Do you prefer this one or that one? Problem solving can be fun, and it's okay to try something and realize it's incorrect and then try something else. So that's the stuff I want to train my team on. My team are not about like one size solution fits every single problem. We only use one type of container. We always use this type of label. It's not about that. It's going, okay, problem solving is fun. How do we solve this? Oh, that's not quite right. Let's try something else. And when it comes to doing that DIY and for yourself, you can use so many resources. Like your brain doesn't have to hold all the possibilities. In fact, let's be honest, our brains cannot hold all of the possibilities. But you might like to use Pinterest or listen to organizing and decluttering podcasts. There's quite a few that are really, really good around the world. You might ask a friend for their opinion, ask your partner, ask your kids. Sometimes your kids will come up with solutions you just would never have thought of. Ask your housemate. Maybe you can watch some YouTube channels and just kind of get ideas of what other people would do. You could do online courses. You can read books. You could do virtual sessions. I did a virtual session with someone just this week who just needed some problem solving. We did 1 hour together and she was like, oh my gosh, I got so much out of this hour. I've just walked away with all this inspiration, all these ideas that I can try and I can put in place. And I kind of know that I've sanity checked them with someone. So being a problem solver when you are decluttering and organizing is huge and important. We're going to go to a quick break and I will be back with the number 7 and number 8 Mary Poppins characteristics in just a second. Okay, number 7, Mary Poppins empowers those around her. So here's a quote that I just think is very funny. Mary Poppins says, never judge things by their appearance, even carpet bags. I'm sure I never do. So she's talking about like that, she pulls out the hat stand and she pulls out the umbrella and she's got all these things. It's like, don't judge things by their appearance. And then she says something incredible. And this is when she's talking about Mr. Banks and she's talking to the children. She says, sometimes a person we love, through no fault of their own, can't see past the end of his nose. And so she's like, he doesn't have vision. He can't see what's happening outside of himself. And so I think it's absolutely vital for a good professional organizer to be empowering the person that they're working with. If you've worked with a professional organizer or you're working with anyone in any kind of support role and you don't feel heard or empowered, it might be time to find someone different. And it might just be a personality clash, or it might be that the person you're using doesn't have the right skill set. But it is important that you feel empowered and heard. Like for us as a business, it's in our mission statement. The art of decluttering exists to empower people to live an intentional life by equipping them to find freedom from clutter. So empowering and equipping, like we provide therapeutic and practical supports to clients. We don't come in and just do it for you and then go, we'll be back next week to maintain it and every week from here on and until whenever. So it's really important that you feel empowered. But if you're the key decision maker in your home, if you're the person, and often, though not always, it is the primary carer or the mum or there's someone in the household that kind of holds that space. It can be really, really tempting to do all the work and then just tell everybody else how it's going to be. It's like, I did all this work. This is where this stuff goes. This is where your toys go. This is where your shirt goes. This is where you put your stuff after work. And this is how it's going to be. And that's the beginning and end of it. But actually taking people on that journey and empowering them and asking questions and what would you do and how would it work for you is really, really important. Because if all you're doing is asking people to toe the line, you might find that their buy-in and their engagement is kind of low. So sometimes the person we love, through no fault of their own, can't see past the end of his nose. So sometimes it might take you leading by example. even if the other people in your family think, oh my gosh, this is a waste of time, and they're not ready to be empowered, like they're completely against it, they're closed off, start with your own stuff. Start with what you're doing, start with how you're changing your own environment, your own possessions, your own relationship with stuff, your own minimalism. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to empower those around you as they start to show an interest and start to go, that looks like a much better way of living. Number 8, principle of Mary Poppins, she comes and goes as needed. So she came to the Banks family on her umbrella, flying through the air when she was needed. And then what I always felt a bit sad about as a kid, and now I kind of love it, is that she just left when she was no longer needed. Like when her job was done, she was off. So this is as Mary Poppins leaving. Here's a quote for you. Jane says, "Mary Poppins, don't you love us?" And Mary Poppins says, "And what would happen to me, may I ask, if I loved all the children I said goodbye to?" So this goes back to, that she is herself. She doesn't mince her words, does she? I don't think that's what I would say to a child who's saying, "Don't you love us?" I would be like, "Of course I love you. It's a time for me to move on." But she's like, "What would happen if I loved everyone?" That wouldn't work. Some clients that we work with for years, and it might be, monthly for years to really help them. They might have executive functioning disorder, or they might have a huge family, or have loss, or lots of different reasons. And yet other clients just need us to pop in and out of their lives, just like Mary Poppins. So life seasons might change, move house, you might have a baby, get divorced, downsize, like so many different reasons. And the need for having a professional organizer on your team, or just decluttering in general, like doing it yourself, will ebb and flow over time. It's not like if you're fully decluttering for years and years and years, you may want to just stop and assess and get some professional help to fast track the process, because you're probably going to burn out and run out of steam. But there is ebbs and flows, and there is times when you lean in and there's times when you lean out. And it's really important to us as a company that clients are really comfortable to have us back and call us or email us with absolutely no shame when they say, "I do need you back for a couple of sessions or many sessions," or whatever it is, that there's no shame whether they're back to where they felt like they started, whether the wheels have fallen off in a particular area, or whatever reason it is. And if you think about the coming and going, so let's think about the coming and going, aside from having the decluttering seasons or having a professional come and help you, think about the coming and going in regards to your stuff, because it's okay that some of your stuff will come when it's needed and leave when it's not. So there are some things that you will acquire or buy or be gifted or whatever that you need, use and love for a season. And then that season finishes, and it's okay that it's time that it's no longer needed and it's going to go. You want your stuff to be able to come and go as needed. So things will come in and you want to declutter and let things go. And it's kind of like you want to hold your stuff with maybe like a loose grip, so you can declutter freely and easily and acquire intentionally. Sometimes I think what we do is we acquire easily and freely and we declutter reluctantly. And so we flip it on its head and we make it much harder for things to go out than to come in. In my life, as being a minimalist, I want it to be much easier for things to go out, and really things have to cross a lot of thresholds for them to come into my house. I have to need it. I have to use it. I have to have somewhere to store it. There's not something else that does exactly the same job. There's lots of little things I want to do checklist wise before I acquire something, but I want to freely be able to let things go. Nothing you buy is meant to last forever. Mary Poppins wasn't meant to be with the Banks family forever. Nothing you buy is meant to last forever. Nothing you buy is meant to last forever. So if you kind of loosen your grip and allow the stuff in your home to have a natural life cycle. So it has its life cycle, you use it, you love it, you need it, you pass it on, you recycle it, you donate it in accordance to your lifestyle and your life stage, then you are in control of your stuff and your stuff's not in control of you. How good is Mary Poppins, guys? Isn't she the bomb? I'm just going to tell you those 8 things just quickly again so that you've got them front of mind. 1, Mary Poppins makes light of heavy work. Well begun is half done. She has a positive attitude in dreary work. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. She does the right thing. Pie crust promise is easily made and easily broken. She's comfortable being herself. She says about herself, she's practically perfect in every way. She has natural talent. She flies on an umbrella and can do so many amazing things. She's a natural problem solver, and she talks about enough is as good as a feast. She empowers those around her, never judge things by their appearance. She comes and goes as needed. And what would happen to me, may I ask, if I loved all the children I said goodbye to? And I think a more appropriate phrasing of that sentence could be, what would happen to me, may I ask, if I loved all the things I said goodbye to? It makes it much harder. If you have a deep connection to every item in your home, decluttering is hard. But imagine if you held open hands and you're like, I'm happy to let things go easily, but I'm going to be really careful about what I bring into my house. I hope that you have enjoyed this Mary Poppins series as much as I have. I just think she's the bomb. I hope that you do too. If you've got some insights from Mary Poppins, you're like, Amy, you're screaming at your phone. Amy, you didn't mention this amazing thing about Mary Poppins that has everything to do with minimalism. Jump into my Facebook community. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook. And please let me know. Put in there, this is the thing that I got out of Mary Poppins. This is, maybe you're a professional organizer and you're like, Mary Poppins is literally the person that inspired me to be who I am today. So I hope that it has been helpful. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. So until then, enjoy the freedom. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.